BRICS countries, Western countries, all on board for Agenda 2030. The people in charge of climate finance for the UN, Mike Bloomberg, the billionaire, and Mark Carney. I think your viewers know enough about Mark Carney to know why that's insane, and to think that Mark Carney and Jamie Dimon and Mike Bloomberg and Bill Gates and all of these guys just care so much about the planet and not about robbing you of all of your wealth, which is what they've spent their entire careers doing. I just remember how Jamie Dimon a few months ago was like, well, we should just seize people's private property for, climate change policy. Remember that? Like, private property doesn't exist to Jamie Dimon. If his friends at Goldman Sachs, who basically designed all this crap that the UN is backing, and green finance and blue finance for Mother Earth and whatever, if those projects decide that they want your property, I guess they'll just turn off your money or whatever and take it. I mean, do you really want to give these guys total control?
Today we have Whitney Webb, discussing the major events coming in the months ahead and why it's much worse than people think. Artificial intelligence has emerged, offering a massive advantage in productivity and innovation. Yet there's a very disturbing aspect to AI. It can be wielded as a means of control and manipulation. Whitney Webb's recent interview sheds light on this dual nature of AI, cautioning against its misuse in the wrong hands and its capacity for unprecedented manipulation when armed with extensive data, and why this is unlike anything we've seen in history. Let's get right into the video with Whitney Webb, as she gives her prediction for what's coming in the days and weeks ahead.
Well, now we've basically been taken over by corporations, and how the business of the businesses of the world is our business. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what he said.
I like to think it's
the UN's not your friend, guys. What we have right now is them literally tokenizing all their existing rackets to move it into this new fourth industrial revolution paradigm. That's literally what is happening across the board, and people just don't recognize it, and they're cloaking it in all this stuff, specifically with SDGs and Agenda 2030. It's this will make a better world, and then you actually look at it and it's this is insane. Why are all bankers in charge of this? I hate it so much. But I mean, you go back into the UN, the UN Secretary General Kofi Annan, at the end of the 90s was yeah, so how we used to be at least viewed as the public sector, the public sectors of the world all coming together to democratically vote on stuff. There's so much I could say. Anyway, I could literally go on for hours and be here's an example of why you should never trust the bankers, and still there's going to be that handful of people with the hashtag Jerome Powell is my pal and Jamie Dimon is my knight in shining armor, and I sometimes you just can't reach people, dude, In order to create this space where they want to push people into this new system, there's going to be chaos and there's going to be instability, and so the comfort and convenience that keeps people asleep will be disrupted. What people do in that point in time is the most critical about this whole thing, about how it plays out. Seriously, that is the most important window. And again, that is why it's so important to be local. Because, okay, there's a big cyber tech on the financial system. The internet goes down for a couple of days. What are people going to do? They're going to go out in the street and look for answers, figure out what's going on. This is why it's important to know what's going on and couple that with having, connections in your local community, so you can direct people about what needs to be done and what's happening at that point in time. It's very important. Well, also the internet, when it turns back on, isn't going to be like the internet now at all. No. They're going to put AI in charge of literally all content. Your ID is going to be tied to not just everything you post online, but everything you read and consume, every site you visit. And they plan to pass all of that through AI to determine if you're a threat to the system or not. This is all predictive policing. All of this stuff is built into this system. Specifically in the US, the Biden administration already has the policy framework developed. They've had it since, they first came into power in 2021.
Webb warns against the entry of powerful financial institutions like BlackRock Whitney emphasizes the critical importance of cautious and ethical AI governance. She contends that the authority of AI should not be concentrated in centralized entities, but distributed, ensuring a future where technology empowers rather than controls. It's vital to remember that this conversation is ongoing. Your involvement and awareness play a pivotal role in shaping a future where technology serves humanity.
Do you know how many bots the US government, and specifically just like the military alone, has to like shape narratives online on social media? And think about how ChatGPT has just like boosted that kind of stuff. The whole plan is to not have anyone know what's real or fake anymore. And AI is being used for that. It's like overtly admitted to in this book that Henry Kissinger and the former Google CEO Eric Schmidt wrote together. It's explicitly about that. And then having us be so dependent on AI technology, specifically generative AI, that we become cognitively diminished and we can't even write anymore. We can't communicate without AI. And then we can't perceive reality, what's real or not, without AI telling us. And that's this whole gambit here with like censorship going on right now, that AI is going to be in charge, not just of deciding what content you can see, but it's also going to be producing the bulk of the content. Humans won't be anymore. And that's already happening, guys. So the best way to deal with that is to spend a lot more time in the real world talking to real people, because like what you see on Twitter and all of this stuff is like more insane. It's going to be more insane than it is now. Right now, it's more insane than it's ever been before. And that's only going to continue escalating because it's just it's going to be nuts, you know?
Yeah.
And we have to focus on building other things, not focusing on all these distractions and psyops that are constantly going to be online. And, another aspect of this, like remember in 2016 when like Hillary Clinton, they were all saying it was like 99% chance she was going to win based off of literal fake polling. They just like made it up to try and demoralize Trump voters and not have them go vote. That same tactic they do to people all the time to make us think that like we're alone and we're isolated and no one else sees this stuff, to demoralize us. And Facebook specifically experimented with trying to manipulate news feeds to make people feel that way. It's like a matter of record. It was like 10 years ago. They still do that stuff all the time.
Totally.
So like, if you're not looking at social media as like a war zone, you need to. Otherwise, you are very susceptible to all of this stuff. Eric Schmidt, right, who basically runs like AI national security policy for the US too, and is like funding all this science and technology policy stuff. Basically, key officials in that of the Biden administration are being paid, their salaries are being paid by Eric Schmidt. It's like super illegal, and Politico reported on it and like nothing was done. They were like, well, I see you found out, and that is that. That guy has an insane amount of power. He was just on a podcast talking about what needs to be done about misinformation. And he was saying, we need to get everyone's ID tied to social media. And then when people post misinformation, report them to law enforcement.
Do we need another Occupy Wall Street? I know you mentioned it. I know you said they don't. Like,
dude. But it's, they don't want that. They don't want that. And so what has to be done is people have to divest from Silicon Valley and Wall Street as much as possible. Because basically what I call the blob that basically runs the US, it's the national security state, it's Silicon Valley and it's Wall Street, okay? It's harder to divest from the US government if you're living in the US than it is to divest from big tech and Wall Street. You can take your money out of JP Morgan and Wells Fargo and Citi, and you can stop using Google products, Microsoft products. You can not use OpenAI, maybe, which is basically Microsoft, and all of this other stuff, because they plan to do a lot of bad stuff with your data, like a lot of very bad things.
Webb warns against the entry of powerful financial institutions like BlackRock into the Bitcoin space, saying this is definitely a negative development in crypto. She asserts that these institutions are set to control a significant portion of the cryptocurrency supply, and emphasizes the importance of resisting this obvious influence on the market. Webb foresees a looming economic catastrophe driven by collapsing fiat money systems, rampant inflation, and bank failures. She suggests transitioning to a Bitcoin standard might be on the horizon, as the world grapples with the impending crisis. She asserts that the promises made by the Federal Reserve and central banks have been hollow, leading to excessive money printing and a proliferation of poor investments. And with the aftermath of the recent inflation surge, Webb says this will not lead to a return to the status quo. What do you think about her prediction for Bitcoin and where we're headed in the first half of 2024? Comment down below. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This is Library of Wealth. We'll see you in the next video.